Hi everybody, this is Anne. Commercial underglaze decals are hard to resist, right? I mean, who doesn't like to decorate their pottery with imagery, and with the amount of beautiful choices of patterns available, it's very tempting to want to purchase them. The problem is they can be a little pricey. In this video, I'll show you an alternative. I'll demonstrate how to make the most simple decals to decorate 2 elegant vases. First, I needed to create the vases. I've come up with these jug shapes. One of the vases will be made from Brooklyn red and the other with my white porcelain. I started with a mold I created from a solid styrofoam circle. It's round on one side and flat on the other. I cut away part of the rounded off side. I then cut a cardboard tube for the stem and pushed it down into the top of the styrofoam. I needed to make slip for each project. I dipped into my recycle bucket for both the red and white clay and slaked them down with water for a soupy slip. On the porcelain vase, I drew a line around the center a little more than halfway to the top. I brushed on a thin layer of the red slip to the entire bottom section of the vase. I repeated this step for at least 3 layers or enough to create a solid opaque coat. I cut out a paper strip that fit on the face of the first side between the top and bottom red section of the vase. I'll use electric blue underglaze for the first layer of the decal. I had this used toothbrush in my supply bucket. I dipped the bristles down into the underglaze, getting rid of any excess. Using my finger to run under the bristles, I sprayed the underglaze so it created tiny dots. I didn't want to cover the whole paper, but just give it a light spray. I dried the paper completely. Next, I used Speedball medium green and Amico turquoise underglazes. Starting with the green, I brushed it over the blue speckles about halfway across the paper. I used the turquoise over the other half, blending them together where they met. I brushed on 3 coats of each. I dried the paper completely. This is very important. Now to apply the decal. I coated the back of the paper with a layer of the red slip. While the slip was still wet, I applied it to the surface of the pot. I dampened a sponge and ran it over the back of the paper to re-wet the underglaze. When the underglaze started to release from the paper, I pulled the strip off. You can take a peek under the corner of the paper if you're unsure. Now, I didn't want all the underglaze to transfer, just portions of it, so I had like a more random antique look. I think it looks like water reflecting in the sun along the beach. I thought it'd be fun to add some little birds sitting along the ledge. I cut out very simple bird silhouette shapes. You can find the patterns for these in the link in the description section. I found a good place where I want that bird to go. I used my red slip again. This time, I coated the back of the bird with the slip. I placed him carefully to the surface and pulled him off quickly to get a random slip pattern like the water. I used a fingernail detail brush to give him a little outline detail where I needed it. I repeated these steps with other bird templates to give the bird a little company. Now that completes the first side. Now here's one I made earlier. I repeated those steps for each of the 4 sides of the vase design. To finish it, I bisque fired it to cone 04. I then glazed the white clay on the outside and the inside with my white liner glaze. I left the red without any glaze for a nice variety of texture. The red and white clays are so contrasting, and the green and blue on the red is a perfect complementary color scheme. Let's decorate the red vase. This time, I drew a section around the top middle of the vase. I coated that section with a layer of thin white slip. I let that layer dry completely, then added more layers until I couldn't see any of the red clay underneath. It has at least 3 coats or more. Again, using newsprint, I cut out random circular shapes. They don't have to be perfect, but they need to be different sizes. I even cut the centers out of some of them. This time, I used the bright red underglaze first. With the toothbrush, I splattered the surface of the circles. I decided to add a little blush underglaze to the other 2 colors. I began brushing the blush heavily in various sections of the circles. Don't cover the entire white of the paper with any one color. I then added the green to cover more of the white paper. I finished by covering the rest of the circles with the turquoise. It's important to let those dry completely. To apply the circles, I coated the back with the white slip this time. I applied the circle to the red clay. I wet the back of the decal with a damp sponge. I pulled it off, hoping some of it would stick and some of the underglaze would pull away. That is so cool. I repeated these steps to the circle decals above and below the white sections of the vase. Using the same bird cutouts with brown slip, I randomly applied them to the white section the same way I did on the first project. Now here's a completed one that I made earlier. I finished this one by brushing my white liner glaze around each of the birds in the center strip, but leaving the red clay in circles without any glaze. I used a spectrum black glaze in the inside of the vase. These are but 2 designs I made without any elaborate drawing or painting skills. I'm sure you can use your imagination to come up with many more. Thanks to the newest members of our Little Street Pottery Research Facility team. If you'd like to join the team and earn a title, click on the Super Thanks button or the link to buy me a coffee. It also really helps us out if you hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. See you next time in the studio.